earlier today in Egypt? Have we gone from the frying pan into the fire with Hosni Mubarak to a military dictatorship, or is this a natural transition from a tyrant to a democratically elected successor?
Well, I'm not only not an expert in Middle East politics, but I also can't foresee the future. But I can read history, and I do know this. Whenever the United States has projected weakness into the Middle East region, it has had a very destabilizing influence. We saw that under Jimmy Carter, and I'm afraid that this administration made similar mistakes as it projected a sense of weakness, beginning with the president's shameful Cairo speech when he apologized for America. As Middle Eastern experts have been warning us, humility is a Western virtue. In the Middle East, it's viewed as feckless, weak, and shameful.
Got it. Congressman McClintock, it's against the law for individuals to break into someone's mailbox and read their mail, to hack into their computer and read their emails, to break into their bank account and look at how much money they have there. Why should the government be able to do this without a search warrant issued by a judge, rather on the whim of one or two federal agents?
Well, it shouldn't, and that's why the Patriot Act is so dangerous. We've been there before. Again, one of the great complaints the American colonists had against the arbitrary decisions of Great Britain was their use of so-called writs of assistance or general warrants, which gave their revenue agents blank check to go and search for any revenue violators, any tax protesters. This was essentially the same thing. It was 1761 when the famous patriot James Otis argued for 5 hours in court challenging the general warrants. There was a 25-year-old lawyer in the audience who went away that day and years later recalled that this was the first scene of the first act of American resistance to the arbitrary claims of Britain. Then and there, the child independence was born. That 25-year-old lawyer was John Adams,
who became the second president of the United States. But why is it that Republicans, people who come from the party of Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan, who believe in the primacy of the individual, who believe in small and limited government, who are supposed to believe that the Constitution means what it says, the Republicans are leading the charge for the extension of this piece of legislation, the most assaultive legislation written by the Congress since the Alien and Sedition Acts 220 years ago?
Well, I can tell you about my travels. I can't talk about other Republicans, but a year ago I made a terrible mistake and voted to extend those provisions of the Patriot Act. But the more that I learned, the more that I researched, it became crystal clear to me that this is not only an affront to our Bill of Rights, but it's a fundamental challenge to our American freedom.
And the way the House Republican leadership has cast this, there was, I think, just an hour of debate. There were no committee hearings. There's no opportunity to amend. You're talking about tampering with the Constitution, and they don't even want to debate it. What are they afraid of?
Well, they're afraid of terrorism and an organized fifth column in our country. But look at our history. We have faced far more malignant and powerful governments and far better organized networks of spies and saboteurs in this country before without having to shred our Constitution. This is no time to start.
You know, if the police could knock down any door they wanted without having a warrant, if the police could listen to any conversation they wanted, if the police could lock up everybody that they wanted based on a whim, if the police could get into our computers and into our bank accounts and into our medical records and our legal records, we'd obviously have a safer country. But who would want to live in a country like that?
I think it's very, very well stated. My chief of staff was born in Moscow. His family immigrated in 1994 when he was 14 years old. About a week or two before they left, the authorities who were trying to block their exit visa ransacked their apartment. They returned. His younger brother was absolutely hysterical and distraught. His mother calmed him down by saying, "Don't worry, son, don't worry. In just a few days, we'll be leaving." And this sort of thing won't happen in America.
Wow. And now we see this thing happening here. Congressman McClintock, you are a hero to the Constitution. I know you can't filibuster in the House, but you have to do everything you can to prevent this monstrous law from being extended. And you're always welcome here. I salute you. Thanks for joining us.